Alright, welcome back to Cinema Brawls. I'm Daniel.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Jake.
And today we're discussing Crazy Stupid Love and Mission Impossible 4, The Ghost Protocol.
Which, in my opinion, is the best of the Mission Impossibles.
In mine as well.
Alright,
this was easy. Let's go home.
Oh. So, let me just describe the movie real quick. Crazy Stupid Love is a movie that came out in 2011 starring Steve Carell and Ryan Gosling. It's got Emma Stone in there. You know, I love me some Emma Stone.
And Kevin Bacon.
And Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon's also in the movie. The movie is a pretty decent movie, really funny. It's about a guy who suddenly becomes divorced in his 40s and has to learn how to date again. Ryan Gosling is kind of his teacher, mentor in that. So it's definitely a good comedy, a good romantic comedy if you're looking for something like that.
All right, and Ghost Protocol also came out in 2011, so that's interesting.
Look at
Didn't know that. It stars a buttload of people, chief among them being, of course, Tom Cruise, Jeremy Renner, and Simon Pegg.
Jeremy Renner.
Man.
Simon Pegg.
And basically the story goes, the company that Tom Cruise's character works for gets compromised because it's allegedly involved in a bombing. And so Tom Cruise and the team go rogue to try and clear the company's name.
Same as like the last 3 Mission Impossibles.
And the upcoming one.
And the upcoming
Right.
one.
Shall we?
First impressions.
On your mark, get set,
Brawl.
First impressions, I'm not really a big action movie guy.
I am.
I'll just say that right out. I do enjoy action movies. I especially like a lot of superhero movies. But with stuff like Mission Impossible or even James Bond, I just don't find them in. I'll watch them, and they're great. They're not my favorites. I would much rather watch a comedy, even if it is a romantic comedy.
I can feel that. I love action movies a lot more when they're action comedies.
Oh yeah, mix the two together.
Yeah,
bam.
You're good.
They're
You're
great.
good.
Like, I would rather watch an action comedy over a comedy or an action movie any day. Because they're just two great genres that go so well together.
I feel like Mission Impossible, the Ghost Protocol, was as close to an action comedy as Mission Impossible has gotten.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, being directed by Brad Bird, who had done like The Incredibles and these other kind of action comedy roles, it was perfect to go from that was his first live action movie that he had directed, and so he brought kind of that cartoon sensibilities to it, mixed with Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise. He just, it kind of became a little bit zany,
Right. If I had to pick one that I would put above the other, I'm gonna go for Crazy Stupid Love. One, it's an original movie. I mean, it's a romance comedy, but it's funny and it's good. Whereas Mission Impossible is, Mission Impossible 4, another action movie with Tom Cruise, which is good. It was fun to watch, but I like the concise, closed up storyline that Crazy Stupid Love has got going on. And again, it is a really funny movie. I really enjoyed it.
Don't get me wrong, I love Crazy Stupid Love, but I think that Mission Impossible 4 is a better movie overall. It hit its stride a little bit. Like, the 5th movie didn't do quite as well, the 3rd one was just bad. But I think Mission Impossible 4 is a better movie.
And honestly, I'm kind of on the fence. It's been a long time since I've seen Crazy Stupid Love, and again, they all kind of blend together, so I can't quite remember Mission 4. But shall we deliberate?
Let's.
Yes.
Let's start with the story. Go ahead, Jake.
I'm just gonna vouch for the story on Crazy Stupid Love, since that's the one I want to win. The story it's good, and it's got a lot of feeling to it. You have the main character who, has a seemingly good life, and then all of a sudden this divorce comes out of nowhere, and he's got to get back into dating and stuff, and he has no idea how to do it. And I feel like that's really relatable almost wherever you are in your life. I mean, especially to me as a college student right now who's trying to date. It's brutal.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
And then you've got all these characters and all these relationships and, finding yourself and things like that. And the story just takes you through all that in a deep but hilarious way.
David Lindhagen.
David Lindhagen.
Okay. Is this a bad time?
Yeah.
And that's why I really like the story to Crazy Stupid Love.
I do love the story of Crazy Stupid Love. I do really like that movie, actually.
As far as romantic comedies go, I feel like that one seems the most genuine.
It really is, honestly.
Like, so many of them, you get these characters and they just seemingly miraculously fall in love. But with Steve Carell, right? The one.
Yeah.
He gets divorced and he kind of has to start over, and he's been out of the game, and that seems a lot more relatable. I agree.
And I think that he has a great character arc, but to be honest, I was really interested more in like Ryan Gosling's character arc. He went from being this total playboy to, okay, I found someone that I'm more than sexually interested in. I found someone that I can love and start dating and stuff like that.
Absolutely. If I'm not watching the movie for Steve Carell, I'm absolutely watching it for Ryan Gosling.
Oh yeah.
Who, by the way, I mean, if I had to pick a gay celebrity crush, it would be Ryan Gosling by far. I'm a
Just
fan.
let that be said.
Must be said.
But dude, that scene at the very end of Crazy Stupid Love where Kevin Bacon shows up and Ryan Gosling, who has spent the last couple of months not only falling in love with Steve Carell's daughter, but becoming a great friend to Steve Carell and learning to love this family and kind of getting maybe even a little bit more emotionally involved than he originally planned to. It was so interesting to see him go, oh wait, you're this character that caused these two people's divorce, and didn't go into it and didn't ask any more questions, just straight up punched him in the face. Like, not only did you hurt my friend, you hurt my girlfriend.
How much pain and suffering you caused my friend, you know?
And I don't know, I felt like that was ridiculously genuine and heartwarming, and he was actually a good guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
granted, he did punch people in the face, but
Well,
he was a good guy.
I'm sorry, the other movie we're debating against is what now?
Yeah,
How many people get
Let's hear your
punched?
take on Mission Impossible 4.
But Mission Impossible 4, again, is the best Mission Impossible. It had a cool, twisty spy thriller story. It had good, fun characters. It's a much more fun adventure. There's a lot more scenic locales. There's a lot more... there's just a lot more to it, I feel like. I feel like it's a much bigger story, much broader focus versus Crazy Stupid Love that's a much more narrow story. It's very personal, but to be honest, not much happens in it versus Mission Impossible that just...
It's a lot more self-contained. Like, it's really just this family and what's affecting this family.
For sure.
I can agree
But
with
Mission
that.
Impossible
Mission Impossible was fun, and it's got a lot more to it, and it is a bigger scope and a bigger story. But I think that's why, I mean, we've kind of talked about both here, and I think that's why Crazy Stupid Love would be getting more points as far as characters go, whereas maybe Mission Impossible 4 has points as far as story goes.
Well, what I liked more about the characters for Mission Impossible, I did like the characters in Crazy Stupid Love. Again, it's a good movie. What I liked more about the characters from Ghost Protocol was that they brought none of the returning characters from the past 3 movies. The only returning one was Tom Cruise. But they had an entirely new cast of characters that were a lot more witty, a lot funner, had their own agendas. I mean, Simon Pegg wrote Ghost Protocol. And so it had a lot more jokes. It had great character development,
Which is good, but here's the problem I see with your theories here, is that you're comparing Mission Impossible 4 to the rest of the Mission Impossibles and nothing else. Which, is definitely the best. It is. But I mean, the characters, as far as comparing it to Crazy Stupid Love, like, you don't get nearly as attached to them. It's not as realistic. Whereas in Crazy Stupid Love, you definitely get to be a part of that family and Steve Carell's journey and Ryan Gosling's journey and see the development firsthand, which is really cool. And because it's a romantic comedy, you get to like kind of feel the same emotions that they're feeling.
I like action-y adventure movies better than romantic comedies.
I do too.
I
feel like with that, I mean, in Mission Impossible, I'm hoping that, you know, they save the world or save the company or whatever, both.
It's going to come down to both.
Right.
Yeah.
They need to save the world, basically. And you want them to do that, you know, for the world's sake. But when it comes down to the characters in Crazy Stupid Love, you want them to have happy endings because you're relating to them rather than just the whole population as a general.
It's more of a, let's take this and make a happy ending rather than let's just stop the bad ending.
I feel like Crazy Stupid Love it's a good romantic comedy, but it's still just there. There's not as much. I mean, there wasn't a sequel to Crazy Stupid Love. I know that there's not supposed. I know there's not necessarily supposed to be, but Mission Impossible, the fourth one, has spawned 2 more sequels after being kind of the shot in the arm. It's basically a soft reboot of the series. And I think,
but sometimes movies are good because they don't need sequels.
true. I don't think necessarily Ghost Protocol needed sequels, but it did well enough that it got them.
All right, so let's bring it back.
We've discussed both story and characters.
Yeah, as far as story and characters, where do we fall on story or Crazy Stupid Love out of 10?
I'll give it a 5.
I'll give it a 4.
I was also going to give it a 5. Mission Impossible, I would honestly
give
it a 5.
I'd give it a 7.
I'm kind of in the middle.
I think it's a great action movie.
And
And it's got just enough twists and turns to keep it
A
going.
5. Along with Crazy Stupid Love. You know, no, I'll give it a 6. I'll give it a 6.
Okay.
It did better with the story in Mission Impossible.
Okay. And so on to characters. What I did enjoy about Mission Impossible, as far as characters go, is I liked how it used its extra cast. And that's kind of goes for all of its movies. Yes, Tom Cruise is the main character, but I like his supporting characters. I feel really bad for Jeremy Renner. I feel so bad. I just don't feel like he gets very well represented. He's an amazing actor. Especially
he's a
in
good actor.
in the MCU, he just doesn't get used as much as he could have, as he has the talent to represent, you know. But in Mission Impossible, I really feel like he did. He did get pretty well represented. He was a good supporting character.
I feel like it was a very well-rounded cast of characters. It wasn't just Tom Cruise's show. It was a team. It was much more of an ensemble cast, and I really liked that.
Now, with that said, getting on to what Jake was saying with Crazy Stupid Love, and it comes to and playing into my scores as far as characters go, I liked how Crazy Stupid Love brought the audience in, you know. It makes us want to feel what they're feeling, to kind of root for them to have the happy ending. So when it comes to characters, I would give it more to Crazy Stupid Love, just because I was more invested and was more relatable, you know. So my score with Crazy Stupid Love, I would give it a 6. Mission Impossible characters, I would give it a 4.
I would give them both 5s. I felt like they both had good character development.
Okay.
I related way too much to the characters in Crazy Stupid Love, so I'm giving them an 8.
Holy cow.
Okay, all right.
But I'll give Mission Impossible a 5 because I still like the characters in there.
Cool.
Rewatchability, I would definitely give that to Crazy Stupid Love. Yeah, it's just lighthearted, it's fun to watch. I could watch it over and over again. I really wouldn't have a problem with it.
I would agree. I'd rather watch Crazy Stupid Love, and that's no discredit to Mission Impossible 4. The reason I say that is because it's Mission Impossible 4. Like, no one comes in and, hey, let's start watching Harry Potter 5.
Right.
You know, we're not going to start in the middle. If you're going to rewatch these series, 9 times out of 10, you're going to start at the beginning and work your way up. And if you're me, you give up after the second one because it's late and you just need to go to bed. But so I would rather watch Crazy Stupid Love because it's quick. It's just, hey, let's watch this, rather than let's watch Mission Impossible series again.
I think that Mission Impossible is just that, like, they're... What?
You're not about to say it's more rewatchable.
I think that they're about the same, honestly.
Get the freak out of here.
No, like,
Mission Impossible is a
seriously.
great movie, but you're not just gonna sit down every day of the week and be like,
Well, I'm not going to do that
Let's go
for
to number
either
4.
of these movies.
obviously, but I mean, really?
I've seen Mission Impossible more than I've seen Crazy Stupid Love, but I've seen Crazy Stupid Love at least.
I mean, the problem
5
with
times.
trying to rewatch Mission Impossible, though, is, like, you know what happens. Like, you know what's going to happen. And it doesn't get deep enough for you to be like, there's stuff that I missed in Mission Impossible 4. I need to
Well, they don't do
go back
that's
through and
not in-
philosophize. And I'm
That's
not
not
saying they
Crazy
do that in
Stupid
Crazy
Love.
Stupid Love, but there are other aspects that make you say, there's some jokes that I missed, or there are some philosophies that I could probably go back and try and find.
In Crazy Stupid Love, not really.
Mm.
I mean, it's a good story, but it's still just It's still just a face value story.
I'm not saying it's the deepest movie ever,
It's
but
not.
I'm saying that it does have layers. It's a smarter comedy, for sure.
Well, it's a smarter comedy, but I think Mission Impossible's a better movie. I do. I like watching Mission Impossible. I like it watching action movies. I feel like it does a great job.
I'm not saying that it doesn't. I'm not, because Mission Impossible 4 is a good movie. But you're also wrong.
Shut up. Okay, alright.
Rewatchability for Crazy Stupid Love, 6, Mission Impossible 3.
6 and 3.
Wow, you're hating on Mission Impossible today.
I
Like,
don't think it's that rewatchable. I think I watch it twice, maybe, and I've got the story down.
I think they're about the same. I think they're both 6s. I think they're both good movies and I've rewatched them both several times. They're not my favorite movie, but I think they're 6s. They're both movies that I like to put on.
That's generous. I do think they're the same. I wasn't going to put them all the way up at 6. I was maybe going to give Crazy Stupid Love a 5 and then Mission Impossible a 4.
Okay, well,
So it all comes down to the merits in genre. It is a very close match right now.
To be honest.
Is Crazy Stupid Love, does that hold up in comparison to other romantic comedies? And does Mission Impossible 4 hold up compared to other action-adventure movies?
I think that, well, if we're going to do that, let's look at Mission Impossible as a whole, because I feel like Ghost Protocol can't represent the whole series being
Yeah,
its best.
it's the best of the whole series.
Mission Impossible is a very iconic action movie.
Sure.
And as far as action movies go, too, it's not like too dark. It's fun.
It's definitely lighthearted,
Right.
a lot more lighthearted than the last 2 entries
Right.
for it.
Or even like a James Bond movie. It's more lighthearted than that, too.
Yeah, I
But you
think
still
it-
get that action you're looking
Yeah,
for.
yeah. I think it was conceived, at least on the movie level, it was conceived as more of a lighthearted version of James Bond, not quite
Right.
so much political intrigue.
Yeah, and it's not like it was super serious either. The part where the guy pulls off that mask, it's just like, okay, there's no way that was just a mask he was wearing 5 seconds ago. It's kind of ridiculous in some parts, but I like the ridiculousness of it because when I'm watching an action movie, you know, I don't need to feel depressed or like super dark. I just
Right.
want the action, but I still want it to be fun.
For sure.
Crazy Stupid Love, on the other side of that, is... I know this isn't the general population's consensus, but I think Crazy Stupid Love is my favorite romantic comedy.
It's definitely up there. I feel like there are better straight comedies, there are better straight romances, but as romantic comedies, it's definitely up there. It's up there with like Hitch and...
Right, and it's one of my favorite Steve Carell movies. I'm not a huge fan of his brand of comedy,
No.
but he is a little more serious in this one, and he does a good job. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and give my scores. I feel that merits in genre, Mission Impossible deserves a 7, whereas Crazy Stupid Love deserves a 6.
You know, actually a good score. I always feel hesitant about giving the exact same scores. But
I know.
I feel about that same. I feel like Mission Impossible was a great shot in the arm, and it did well for an already well-known series. So I think a 7's good. And I just really like Crazy Stupid Love, so I think 5.
I was gonna flip that. I know you guys both agreed that Mission Impossible was kind of more talked up. I'm just gonna switch that a little bit. I think Crazy Stupid Love is much better in the realm of romantic comedy, so I'm gonna give that one a 6. Whereas Mission Impossible, still great action adventure movie, but there are other ones I would rather watch first, so I'm gonna give that one a 5.
So Mission Impossible 4 gets a 5, and Crazy Stupid Love gets a 6.
Making that our winner.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it, I really recommend checking out Crazy Stupid Love. Great movie.
And Mission Impossible, even though you've all seen it.
Yeah, we don't talk about crap movies here.
You've all seen it.
We do, actually.
All right.
Alright.
Time for the next pick. Pick a good one, Daniel. Let's go from the bottom.
Or right off the top. That's fine too.
Yeah.
Daniel, what do you got?
Little Rascals.
Enemy at the Gates.
Wow. I thought this one was apples and oranges.
Okay, thank you
Alright.
for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, and tell all your friends about us. Tune in next time to see us deliberate over Little Rascals and Enemy at the Gates.